Season of Discovery is finally here, and you've read it right. You can be a Mage Healer. I'm going to be taking you through absolutely everything you need to know, from stat priorities, gearing, and of course those new runes that we're going to be discovering. Starting off with the Mage Healer's stat priority, first up we're going to want generic spell power, which is going to affect all of our spells. Then it is going to be spell and arcane damage, and this is going to affect your damage, of course, and also our temporal beacon, which is the effect of a new rune we're going to be using. And this is going to do damage to healing conversions. Third up is spell healing. This is going to affect your direct healing spells, of course. Then we've got spell hit rating. You should need roughly about 6% to cap hit on bosses. Then we've got spell critical strike, which means you're going to be doing 150% damage of your spell's critical strike. And lastly, which isn't on here, will be intellect. Then we have a few other priorities that we can use after these, one being spirit, which is going to give us some minor mana regen. Then we've got MP5, or mana per 5 seconds, which will allow you mana regen while in combat and casting. And then we have resistance, which is going to strongly reduce magic damage taken for a specific element, and it's going to have really great synergy with something we've got called magic absorption. Now looking at what race and profession we are going to be choosing, I would say for Alliance, gnomes are probably the best. They have a racial called Escape Artist, allowing them to get out of any immobilization, which is fantastic. And they also have Expansive Mind, meaning they have an extra 5% intellect. Now, one other really exciting thing that we can't forget with gnomes is that they have extra 15 points into engineering. And engineering is kind of the go-to profession in Season of Discovery. If you don't want to be a gnome, but you do still want to be Alliance, there is, of course, the human. They do have perception, which dramatically increases stealth detection, kind of useful, I guess. They also have the human spirit, meaning their spirit is increased by 5%, which is going to help with mana regen, but still, it doesn't really beat the gnome's intellect increase. Then they do, of course, have their sword specialization. We don't care about that at all as a mage. And then they have some increased reputation gains. Again, we're not really going to be using that much, and it doesn't really matter. If you are looking at going Horde, however, I would personally recommend Troll because of their Berserking trait, which can increase your casting and attack speed by 10% to 30%. At full health, the speed increases 10% with a greater effect, up to 30% if you are badly hurt when you activate Berserking. It's on a 3-minute cooldown and lasts 10 seconds. They also have regen, which gives you some health regen. They have beast slaying, which increases your damage towards beasts. And they have bow and throwing specialization. Again, absolutely worthless to mage, just like the human one. Then we have undead, which are fairly useful. They have will of the Forsaken, which is immunities to charm, fear, and sleep. And then you get fear and... it will get you out of fear and seduction and any sleeps, etc., which is very good if you're going to do any PvP. PvE, though, they do have shadow resistance, which is going to give you some resistance towards shadow, of course. And then lastly, they do have cannibalize, which does regenerate 7% of total health every 2 seconds for 10 seconds, which is basically you eating a corpse. So this is only going to help kind of really between pulls or on trash packs, etc., or while out leveling. So again, if you are Horde, the options aren't great. Really, the best to go with is going to be Gnome. Looking at the gear that is going to be really helpful to you. First, above me here, we've got the Magician's Mantle. This is bind on equip, and you can probably find this in the auction house. Then we've got the Black Velvet Robes. These have a large amount of intellect, and you can also find these on the auction house. We've then got the bracers on the right, the Mind Thrust bracers. These are also BOE and on the auction house. And then we've got the Twisted Chanter's Charm, which is BOE and on the auction house. And then we have Belt of Aragorn, which is actually bind on pickup and is not on the auction house. This is from Archmage Aragorn in Shadowfang Keep. And last but not least, we've got the Lawkeeper's Ring, which is from the Silverwing Sentinels, Warsong Gulch reputation. So that human rep gain actually could come in handy for this ring. And if you're a Horde, it's going to be the Advisor's Ring with the Warsong something, the Warsong Outstriders, I think it is. But either way, it's from the Warsong Gulch PvP rep. Looking at talent trees then, obviously we don't have a lot of talent points we actually can use. This is the build I will be using personally. So starting from the top left in Arcane, we've got Arcane Subtlety, which is going to reduce your target's resistance to all of your spells by 10 and reduce the threat caused. Then in the middle at the top row, we have Arcane Focus, which is going to reduce the chance that your opponent can resist your spells. Then on the second line, we're taking 5 out of 5 into Arcane Concentration, giving you a 10% chance of entering clear casting state after any damage spell hits a target. This is going to reduce the mana cost of your next spell by 100%. Third line is going to be Improved Arcane Explosion, which is going to increase the crit chance of your Arcane Explosion spell by another 6%. And last but not least is 1 point into Arcane Meditation, which is going to allow 5% of your mana regen to continue while casting. Of course, you're probably still thinking, well, where the hell does the healing come in? Well, that is with our new runes, of course. We have the first one here, which is Regeneration. This gives you the Regeneration spell, which is going to heal a target over 3 seconds, and it's going to apply a buff called Temporal Beacon. Temporal Beacon is going to record the subject's space-time position. 80% of all arcane damage you do by you is going to be converted into healing on each of your casters' Temporal Beacon targets. And that healing is going to be reduced by 50% when it's on yourself. So basically, with this regeneration spell, whenever you use it, this is a simple heal, and it's a tiny heal over time. But also, when you're doing damage to anything, it's going to actually turn that damage into healing, just how like retail Discipline Priest works with Atonement. So basically, you know, you put on your heal over time, it's going to then put a buff on the target called Temporal Beacon. Any damage you then do is then causing that person with Temporal Beacon to be healed. The mass regeneration one on the right is basically an AoE version of regeneration, and this is your third rune. And then the one in the middle, Arcane Blast, is going to deal damage, and it is actually going to increase your damage and healing every time you use it, stacking to 4. One thing to note on this, every time you do use it and this stat goes up, the actual mana cost is also going to increase as well. If you're wondering how to get these runes, Regeneration is dropped by Defias Pillagers in Westfall. If you are a human, if you're a gnome, it can be found in a hut on the northern island of Loch Modan. And as the Horde, it can be looted from the Kulkar's booty chests in the Barrens. Undead, it can be dropped from Dalaran apprentices in Silverpine Forest. The mass regeneration one, I actually don't know where this has been found yet. It has not been revealed, but I will update the description on this video once this one has been. And that unfortunately does go for the same with Arcane Blast. Again, I am filming these pretty much, you know, on the precipice of these things coming out, so I do apologise for not having a crystal ball at this point, but I did want to get these guides out for you ASAP. Last but not least then, how does it all come together and how are we actually going to use this in our general rotation? Well, this here again is the rotation I would recommend using. You're going to be using Regen and Mass Regen for healing to apply that Temporal Beacon buff, depending on if you need single target or AoE healing. We're going to use Rapid Regeneration to spot heal and get a quick heal up. And then we're going to use Arcane Blast and our Arcane Explosion to deal damage to then heal our targets. And we can use Rewind Time if we're using that rune. I didn't go over that one here, which will do the reverse damage on your beacon targets when needed. And we can keep that one on cooldown as well. Basically, the Rewind Time rune is going to, it's on a 30-second cooldown, and you add this to your current target with Temporal Beacon instantly, healing all damage taken over the last 5 seconds. It is ineffective on targets that did not have a Temporal Beacon 5 seconds ago, however. I wouldn't say to take this one. I would say take the 3 runes that I did mention earlier in this video. I hope this guide was helpful to you. It's really interesting and really fun that we can actually play a Mage Healer in Season of Discovery. And there's also some really other interesting specs that we can have, like a Shaman tank, Rogue tank, and Warlock tank, for example. I will be doing guides on those as well. So make sure to click that subscribe button. And if you have any more questions or you just want to play with other people in Season of Discovery or retail, then do join my Discord.